the same throughout. So we actually made a decision about 6 square root of 8 in the last lesson, and it's 12 square root of 2. Right? Hopefully everyone is aware of it. And then 4 square root of 9 was the 8, so the 4 square root of 18 can be written as 4 times square root of 9 times 2, which means we can end up having another 12 square root of 2. Alright, this is all over. The denominator, the 32 can be written as 16 times 2, which means we end up having 12 square root of 2. Alright? Minus 37 is the same as 36 times 2, so this will be 6 square root of 2. Okay, now, because we now have the same prime number inside the square, it means to do this question, you may not need to use the conjugate of the denominator. Okay? So you have to be very careful when you're doing method 2, because it only works if the number inside the square root can be converted to the same prime number. If you can't convert it, like let's say for example, if you had a 3 here, okay, then you could only simplify the numerator, but the denominator will still remain an irrational number or a set, which means you might need the conjugate. Alright? So, if you carry on here, since we have got like terms, we've got the numerator and the denominator, 12 plus 12 will give you 24, so you end up having 24 square root of 2 all over. That will be 12 minus 6, and you get 6 square root of 2. Obviously, these two will cancel out. 24 divided by 6 will give you a 4. Okay? Now, this is much easier and it's shorter, but it only works if you are able to convert every number inside the square root to the same prime number. If you end up having different prime numbers inside the square root, then it won't work. Okay? In that case, you might need to then use the conjugate of the denominator. That is if the denominator is still a set or is still irrational. Okay? So take note of that, because sometimes this method will make life very easy for you. Okay? So you might just do a quick check. Can I convert every number inside the square root to the same prime number? The answer is yes. Then you can use this method. If the answer is a no, then maybe you might have to use the conjugate of the denominator. All right? Any question? Okay, then let's get on to the next one. Now, so I stopped here. So last time, just to clarify and to reiterate what's happening here. Like this question as well, we may use the shorter method, but first I'm going to use the conjugate of the denominator. Now the conjugate, this is our denominator, that is square root of 12x to the power of 13 minus 8 minus the square root of 8x to the power of 17. That's our denominator. Its conjugate, we have a plus here. Okay, so I wrote that there. Okay, please you have to make sure that the numerator and the denominator here are the same. You know what happened in the previous lesson. Alright? Okay, so from here now, we use FOIL in both the numerator and the denominator. Okay? So square root of 27, square root of 27. Now we can simplify that, because 27 can be written as a product of a prime number and a perfect square. So this will be 3 square root of 3. Okay? And the square root of 12x cubed can also be simplified, because 12 can be written as 4 by 3, which becomes 2 square root of 3. So 3 square root of 3 times 2 square root of 3. Right? 3 times 2 will give you a 6. 6 times 3 will get 18. X to the power of 26. Okay? Right? So this will be the square root here of x to the power of 26. because x to the power of 13 times x to the power of 13, it's inside the square root. So you add the exponent and you get x to the power of 26. Right? Then square root of 27 times this. Now 8 is equal to 2 root 2. Okay? So the 2 which will be outside the square root times the 3 will give us 6. But it becomes 6, it will become plus 6 square root of 6x, because I'm going to have a 3 inside the square root here and I'll have a 2 there. And then if I add my exponents, I'll get 30. So I'll get 6x to the power of 30. Are you following that? Right? Then, now I'm multiplying this one here by that. Okay? So 18 can be written as 9 by 2, which is 3 root 2. Okay? And this one here is 4 by 3, which is 2 root 2. So this one is going to be 3 root 2, and that one will be 2 root 2. So we end up having minus 3 times positive 2, that will give us a negative 6. Okay? So we end up having root 2 inside here and also root 2 there. So if you multiply the 2, you get 12. So I can put a 12. Right? Are you following that? Right? So you end up getting 12 times the square root of x to the power of 30. Okay? Then this one here multiplied by the one at the end. So we know that this is 3 root of 2. And we also know that that will be 2 root 2. So minus 3 times 2 is going to give you a minus 6. Then you have a square root of 6. That will be x to the power of 34. Okay? Sorry, can you try to speak up? Okay, let's see. If you multiply the square root of 18x to the power of 17 times the square root of 12x to the power of 13, you simplify this 18 here, it will be 3 square root of 2. Right? It will be 3 square root of 2. So I put 12 here. Okay, wait, I think I made a mistake. Probably I made a mistake here. So this will be 3 square root of 2. That will be 2 square root of 3. But then the 3 times the 3 will give us what? It will be 3 times 2 gives you 6. Then, okay, let me just check this. So that will be 3 root 2 times this one here, it will be times 2 root of 3. So it will be, there should be 6 square root of x to the power of 30. 6 is there to 6x to the power of 30. What about this one? That's the other one. Okay, so if I multiply this to 3 by 2 negative 6, then square root of 2 times square root of 3, I'll get a 6. Okay. Change that. That's why I don't like this set. Alright, so you get 6 times the square root of 6x to the power of 30. Alright, let's just verify this one. So if I multiply this 2 for 3 root 2, this one here it will be 2 root 2. Right, so 3 by 2 I'll get 6. Then 2 by 2 I'm going to get 4. So we end up getting, sorry, 2 times 6, that will be 24. Okay, look here. 3 by 2 is 6. 6 by 2, okay, 12. Right, so that will be 12 x to the power of 34. Okay. Right, are we on the same page there?
Yes. Okay, I understand.
Right? Then the denominator the square root of 12x cubed times the square root of 12x cubed. Well, that one is very straightforward, right? That will give us 12, right? Then you end up having inside the square root, since we have got x to the power of 13 and x to the power of 13, both are inside the square root, so we'll get x to the power of 13. So that's straightforward. Now, last time, yes? Okay, we can, this is supposed to be, we can put 17 here. I don't want, that's supposed to be 17. Yeah, look, yeah, it's supposed to be 17. Because you're multiplying square root of x to the power of 17 by square root of x to the power of 17. So it's supposed to be 17. Am I right there? Okay. Huh? Okay. This one here, it can be simplified. Okay. Don't worry, we'll simplify it. And that one will be simplified, this one will be simplified. So we'll take the x's out. But we'll write that one as it is. Alright. The denominator, can I have your attention? Remember, I told that the denominator, there is no need to do FOIL throughout. You multiply the first term here by the first term there. You get 12x to the power of 13. Then you multiply the second term and the last term. Okay? Because the middle term will give you 0. You see, okay? Right? If you multiply this one and that, you get this one here. Then if you multiply this first term and the second term, because they are both positive, they'll give you a positive answer. Then the first term here and the first term, sorry, the second term and the first term will give you an answer which is negative, but it's equivalent to the product of the first term here and the last term there. Yes? Okay, don't worry, I'm going to simplify that. Okay, so this one here and that one, we got that. If I write this one and that one, it is exactly the same as multiplying this one and that one. But they've got opposite signs. So you get 0. Which means I just have to multiply this and that one there. So the answer that I will get there is going to be minus 8x to the power of 17. Is that right? Huh? Yes. Right. Now we have simplified that numerator. Now these two, they are like tens. You see them? They are like tens. So those two can cancel out. Okay? It's not always the case that they can cancel out, but in this case they are. So in the end, we are going to be left with 18x to the power of 13 minus 12x to the power of 17. Right? This is all over. This is all over 12x to the power of 13 minus 8x to the power of 17. Okay? Now, we need to factorize to simplify. Okay? We have to factorize. So in the numerator, my common factor is going to be, okay, for the integers, it's going to be a 6. Okay? So this will be 6. Then x to the power of 13 times, here I'll get 3. Okay, I'll be left with a 3 minus, okay, are you following the factorization? Our common factor is a 6 in the numerator, right, for the integers. Then x to the power of 13 and x to the power of 17, the common factor is going to be x to the power of 13. That's why I wrote a 6x to the power of 13. Then we've got a 3 minus 2x to the power of 4. Right? That's the numerator there. The denominator, we are going to have another 6x to the power of, oh sorry, it's a 4. Sorry. So we're going to have a 4x. So that will be 4x to the power of 13 times, that will be a 3 minus, okay, 2x to the power of 4. Okay? Now, these two cancel out, right? So in the end, we are going to end up getting our answer is 3 over 2. Yes, because the x to the power of 13 and the x to the power of 13 cancel out. So we'll have 6 over 4, which gives us 3 over 2. Alright? Is there anybody who did this question on their own and off? Okay, thank you. Right. You see, after the lesson last time, you're supposed to go home and carry on with the question. Okay, thank you. Alright. Okay, now let's see if we can do the same question using the second method. Okay, so let's try it out with the second method. Let me just duplicate this page. Okay. Right, I just want you to be aware. Listen, when you are doing sets, especially like these ones here, you have to be very, very careful. Your mind needs to be very sober. Otherwise, you can make unnecessary silly mistakes. Now, you have to be very sober. What is this? My question has disappeared. Oh, okay. At what time is this lesson going to end? 5 past. Okay. Let's do a good time. Because today I'm just concluding. All right. Any question there? Any question? Right, I'm going to ask you to do this question. Can you simplify this, please? Okay, I'm putting you now. Please just write class exercise. Can you simplify that? Can you simplify that? Okay, this is 2 to the power of 2013 minus 6 times 2 to the power of 2011 over 4 to the power of 1010. So simplify that using your knowledge of exponent. Okay, you should have completed with that already. Are you practicing? Because if you have been practicing over the past days, you should have met a question like that. How come? You managed to get the answer. Really? Is there anyone who has managed to get the answer? Right, we don't have too much time. Let me just talk about it quickly before the bell rings. But you need to practice. All right. Okay. Can I have your attention quickly, please? Can I have your attention?